I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, the Bawanas of the Apostles and the Elders, Great Millstone, and YAHAWASHI, Waha Kodash Ka, to the elect out there doing this work of faith and living for love, truth, sincerity. And today I just want to get into a lesson, pretty much about belief, and having faith. I don't know what I'll entitle it yet, but it's based off this quote from Muhammad Ali. And lately I've been going through a couple of his quotes because they're pretty powerful. So this quote that I have here, what you see on the screen, from Muhammad Ali, it says, "It's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief, and once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen." Now, one key thing, about learning in general, learning in the scriptures, learning in life, and everything is repetition, which is key. Something repeatedly being done back and forth in action. How do we learn? We study to show ourselves approved. When we study, we don't just read. We absorb, we understand, we apply, we go over this information relentlessly, for it to become a part of us, and that's one great thing that's about the scriptures because, and why, the law and things are so, pretty much you have the law reiterated many times over, but the Lord is wording things differently, and he does that through a way of repetition. And as they say in the world, repetition is the father of learning, and that comes from the Lord because we see that essence within the scriptures. So this what allows us to let things stick into our minds, So I read this again. It says it's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. Now, just basic definition of affirmations. Um, and it pretty much goes into the word. Let me back up. Affirmation, the action or process of affirming something or being affirmed. A declaration, a statement, an assertion, proclamation, pronouncement, affirmation, to affirm. Uh, State as a fact, assert strongly or publicly, declare one's support for, uphold, or defend. So basically something strongly that to be fact. That's what an affirmation is. And we know in its truth we have spiritual facts. As I like to say, spiritual facts, which are evidence that is not seen, but it's physically seen, but seen through the spirit. And we have tangible facts that are affirmations. Okay, so it's the repetition of facts, that spiritual facts in this case. It's the repetition of spiritual facts. Just removing this word. It's the repetition of spiritual facts that leads to belief. Spiritual facts within the scripture. An example. What we say, and what we know to be, each tribe to be what they are. Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin to be the so-called West Indians and Jamaicans of today. Tribe of Levi, the so-called Haitians of today. And we see different instances within these different tribes, traits to link it up in scripture to prove who they are until this day. So it's things like that that leads to belief. Or for instance, and I just use my experience as an example because that's one of the best ways for me personally to teach. Is that first coming into the truth. Three lessons or three things that I wanted to know about when I entered in this truth. Those things were answered, and I didn't even have to ask them. So those were spiritual, factual affirmations that led further to my belief in this truth for me to know, that this is the truth and this is all I will ever need for the rest of my life, So that was very important there. All right. So says it's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. And the scriptures say, has thy faith, have it to thyself first. Faith is having belief, a strong belief, trust in something or someone, which is the Lord, YAHAWASHI. So once that belief happens, that belief becomes a deep conviction. Now let's take a quick look at the word conviction, all right, which is back up, conviction, a formal, not that one, but a firmly held belief or opinion. So pretty much an affirmation, conviction, pretty much in the same ballpark to a degree. The quality of showing that one is firmly convinced of what one believes or says. Certainty, certitude, assurance. The scriptures speak about this in the book of Hebrews real quick. Book of Hebrews 10 and 22. I believe it's at 22, 23. Hebrews 10 and 22. Let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance, full conviction in our spirit of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience, which is the ways of the world, and our bodies, our spiritual mind, washed with pure water, which is the word. Okay. So we draw nearer and dearer unto the Lord, with that full conviction and persuasion of the mind to have that trust in the Lord, because our mind is being converted from wickedness unto righteousness, So going back to that, what was I? The definition of conviction. A firmly held belief or an opinion. Synonyms: what? Belief, opinion, view, thought, persuasion. Okay. From the Latin word convincere, convictio, convince. How the scriptures say how we ought to convince the gainsayers. So the Latin word con with vincere, conquer, with conquer. Overcome, defeat an argument. So basically to overcome. So once that strong feeling of conviction, that strong feeling of belief overcomes you, basically then things begin to happen. So I'll read this one more time. It's the repetition of spiritual facts that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So that's the process of our belief and how, we come to grow within this truth and be stronger to actually be soldiers for the Lord. So once our beliefs become a deep conviction, things begin to happen. And you start to notice more spiritually how the Lord is working constantly within our life, and how it said the word, one of the synonyms was persuasion, and this is Romans 14 and 5. It says, one man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. So let's just look at that word, persuaded, to be fully persuaded, as it says, to bear, to bring full, to make full, to cause a thing to be shown to the full, to fulfill the ministry in every part, to carry through to the end, accomplish, to be fully persuaded. To fill one with any thought, conviction, you see that word conviction again, or inclination, to make one certain, to persuade, convince one, to be persuaded, fully convinced or assured, to render inclined, to bend on, completely assured, entirely accomplished. So to be fully persuaded, we're going to see this thing all the way through to the end, Lord will, if we are truly fully persuaded within our mind. Because if you're fully persuaded in something, you're going to stick through it no matter what. If you have a belief, that your business is going to thrive, and its truth is a business. You have a feeling that your business is going to thrive. You're going to stick through it no matter what, and you're not going to listen to what others are going to say to try to persuade your mind otherwise, because the scriptures say this, and this is what 2/3 will try to do to us. What's the scripture? I believe it's Lamentations, the 4th chapter. To subvert, or is it Lamentations 3? Let me see. So I think it's, matter of fact, I think it's Lamentations 3:20. I know it's in the book of Lamentations. I believe. Hold on. To subvert. Slovakia. Oh, Lamentations 3:36. Okay. Yeah, it says this is so. This is what the Lord, the word, the people of the world will try to do to us. Okay. I started 3:35. Lamentations 3:35. To turn aside the right of man before the face of the Most High, to subvert a man in his cause, the Lord approveth not. So for someone, that's not of this thing to try to subvert us, in our righteous cause, the Lord don't approve of that. Or if you're a brother in his truth and another brother try to persuade you, otherwise from what the Lord requires you to do, the Lord don't approve of that either. To subvert basically means to change a man and to go in the opposite direction from, the path in which he's seeking. So once again, if we're fully convinced, we're going to see it through to the end, and and we shouldn't be convinced otherwise, from our faith and what we truly believe in, because this truth is what the Lord approves in, So real quick, this is the book of Psalms 68, and I was right there. Psalm 68 and 19, it says, "Blessed be the Lord who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the power of our salvation, Salah." So this is a part of what you'll begin to notice, how the Lord load us with daily benefits once you become fully persuaded in your mind and that full conviction sets over, as it said within this part. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So, for younger brothers, when you in this truth, you'll start to realize how the Most High is working more and more in your life when you become more spiritually inclined, so to speak, and you start to pay attention to the little idiosyncrasies of things, or the little details. That's truly being circumspect when you're paying attention to those little details that constantly happen within your life. What happened in all our lives, and you'll begin to notice how the Lord is working the angels around and moving puzzle pieces around, moving people around to make things happen specifically for you, because you're the Lord's chosen. So we are all, pawns within this thing, but we are key members that are on the chessboard who the Lord is going to use. Well, the Lord has other, pieces around us. Say we the king on the board, and the Lord will use our family members and friends, or people within your life, and move them around to help protect you and to help you to thrive within this truth. So that's a part of how the Lord loads us daily with benefits, or how the Lord will use the government to do this, or so on and so. It's so many different ways and things, how the Lord makes things work just to benefit us on the daily, man. And that has to happen through your belief, and because what we see what happens with unbelief, and a point of this is in the book of Matthew 17, in which I show what happens in the sense of unbelief, and but we want to be on the side of belief, of course. And I started the book of it's the book of Matthew 17, and in 14, it says, "And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed, for oftentimes he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then YAHAWASHI answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me." So, YAHAWASHI was kind of pissed, because he like, yo, O faithless and perverse generation, how long should I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Like, how long I got to put up with you for you to fully have the faith to be able to perform these miracles and do these things in which I'm doing? That which means that your faith and your belief isn't on that level yet, So this is the type of things that happens when you don't have that full belief and that full assurance of faith. But when that time comes and the Lord put that power down upon brothers that truly have the faith, that truly have the belief, we're going to be able to perform all things. you know, and it's certain things that brothers have power to do now. Brothers have the power, to heal through herbs and to help others heal and different things like that, and that's all through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI, you know. And these are certain things that we have abilities to do now, not on a level as back then, but with belief, we can definitely move mountains, So this is one a key example of what happens, when you don't have the belief and when you don't have the faith. You can't help to heal the sick, and as Apostle Tahar, them stated a while back, when they used to do the sit down in studio shows of how they would go to certain buildings and they would exorcise demons out of certain places. And they did that because what? They were fully persuaded within their mind and they were fully assured in their faith and what they believe in. That's why they were able to do those things, and what Yahawashi was speaking of, that these men should have been able to do back then, So, this thing is all about belief and allowing that belief to become a deep conviction. We'll begin to see things happen within our lives when we truly have that belief and when we're being built up enough to see those things and pay attention to those things happen within our lives, So this is just a short exhortation for, brothers to believe and know, that the Most High, Yahawah can make things happen and is making things happen in your life on a daily when you even don't recognize them. You just have to pay attention to the Spirit constantly to be able to pinpoint those things out, and through that you'll be able to give more glory and honor to Yahawah. So with that, I hope this segment was edifying, and I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone, and Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, Waha Kudash Rakah, to the elect out there doing this work of faith, labor of love, and true sincerity. Shalawam.